there's no way we would still be full-time entrepreneurs for this long if we had started with nothing. But I had a lot of experience. I had a lot of knowledge on marketing, even if I hadn't implemented all of it. um, I had a lot of online connections. I'm kind of an obsessive researcher, and I call myself an information collector. So people come to me like, do you know XYZ? I'm like, nope, but I know where you can find out. and, um, and I had content created. Like my blog, I've never been good at SEO. I've tried over the years, but I've just never felt like I've really had a good handle on it. And yet, even still, it gets me traffic to my website every day just because I've moved forward imperfectly. And so I think having lived that experience now, it's easier for me to believe myself when I tell myself, hey, it's okay that you didn't do it for 2 weeks. Just like write the next paragraph of your novel and then go respond to, and then let's make a TikTok video for your nursing tutor because I got to post something today. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I just like get on there and I talk and it's good.
Welcome to the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast. In the Champions Corner edition, I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lydia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're taking you into the training room, deep in the dojo, sharing the secrets of what it takes to forge a champion. We're digging deep into mindset mastery, high-performance habits, best-in-class behaviors, and bringing you the tips and techniques that maximize human potential, brought to you from some of the best in the business.
So grab your buds and your seat. Hit subscribe and get ready to up your game. Let's do the show.
Let's do it. School. We've all been there, and at some point, likely been extremely frustrated with a class or a concept. Hello, organic chemistry. Today's guest has taken her learning journey and her ability to help others learn tough concepts and turned it into an impressive service business, online tutoring. Specifically, Nicole Whitworth found throughout her undergrad and graduate programs in psych and nursing that she had a sought-after knack for helping others learn. After working in the nursing field for some time, Nicole decided that her true passion and calling was helping others navigate their own journey through the nursing education system. A system with no shortage of challenges. From that, Your Nursing Tutor was born, and Nicole has been growing that and other businesses ever since. Aside from the specifics of this nursing tutoring online business, we explore how this can relate directly to you and others with your own unique abilities and talents. Today's environment is so friendly for business startups, and there are great insights on how to find, leverage, and offer your own services. So come join us in the Champions Corner with Nicole Whitworth. All right. Welcome, Nicole. Thanks for coming on the show again. We're excited to have you on and talk a little bit different slant on things.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be back. I love talking business and all things about it with other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yes.
So maybe for anybody who hasn't catched or didn't catch the previous episode, give us a little bit about your background and where you came from and just right up to the point of what you're doing today.
Sure thing. So I'm a registered nurse, which is not what I thought I was going to be when I grew up. As a side note, I actually thought I was going to be a clinical psychologist, but I met my husband. I always say we met online dating when back when people would say, "Aren't you afraid of being murdered?" Versus nowadays they say, "Oh, me too." Right. So it was in the early days of that. But that made me, he was military. And so that made me rethink my career path because we didn't know what the future held for him. And I wanted a job that would be flexible. So I actually dropped out of my graduate program for clinical psychology after getting my master's and decided to go back to school for nursing. I worked as a nurse for a few years, but my very first job, got pregnant. Which we were hoping for. It was a blessing, but we didn't expect it to happen right away. and so that kind of changed my path because I'd always thought I'd be a working mom and decided that I was going to be, that wasn't going to work for me for just personal reasons. I wanted to do something. And so for a while, I found a work from home nursing job, but while I was in nursing school, I had started peer tutoring. Because nursing school is tough and it is not like anything else. And there was a definite problem it was like a big disconnect between the instructors who were really trying to help and wanting to help, and the students who are not feeling helped at all. And so I've just always had an academic bent and a teaching bent, and I managed to figure out a good way of studying that was really working for me. And people in the program were noticing. And so I started helping my classmates, and they asked me to take on an official role as peer tutor. And that sort of started something that I never expected, which was like even 2 years after graduating, when I had already quit my first nursing job and was doing something else. I still had students from that program calling me asking for tutoring help, just from word of mouth, because nobody was able to fill my place after I left. They never had a peer tutor after that. And my husband and I had been starting to get interested in entrepreneurship. Although at that time, I thought he was going to be the entrepreneur, because I was like, no, I'm an introvert. Not interested. Like, I'll support you 100%.
Yeah.
But I love learning things. And so I'd been learning about business and online business and things like that. And I'm just like, one of the things they always say is, if people are already coming to you asking for something, like, what are the questions people come to you to ask? That could be your business. and so I thought, maybe this is what I can do. So I started just trying things online, and putting classes out, and doing one-on-one tutoring and things like that. And people were receptive of it. And then just from there, I did it very, very part-time, because our family grew. We have 6 kids now. We homeschool. And so for about 10 to 12 years, I just kind of did that on the side as I had time, in between pregnancies, in between breastfeeding, all the things, just to make a little bit of side money, mostly just to fund my own, like, I call it like keeping my mommy brain alive, because that's something I shouldn't even call it my mommy brain. It's my Nicole brain. It's my adult brain. And
it's separate from your mommy brain.
It is. That's something I'm really passionate about, which is it's so easy, especially for moms, dads too, but especially moms, to get lost in momming. And then I've seen so many, especially in the homeschool community, I've seen so many homeschool moms graduate their kids and then be like, what now? Yeah. And they don't even know what to do with themselves. And I never want to be in that position. I want to always have something so that I can model for my kids too. That, like, yes, I'm here for you, but there's also me that you have to be considerate of me too. So I always knew there was potential for the business to go full time. That had been my dream. And that was the point where it kind of flip flopped. I wanted us to be like full time, work at home, family. Again, introvert, right? My husband's like, no. I could never see us all working from home. I'd go stir crazy. But just God kind of lined up some things for us a few years ago towards the end of COVID, where we were just in a position where he was able to quit his job. And we were like, I think it's time to make a go of this and to give this a shot to go full time. And so we did that. We took the leap. It's not the way that I blankly recommend everybody do it, to like jump in and live off of savings to see if it works, unless you really feel strongly called. But we figured the worst that can happen is one of us can go back and get a job. And that's not really too terrible. Yeah. Things. So that's what we've been doing. So we've been doing it full time for about 3 years now. And there's definitely ups and downs, but we wouldn't have it any other way. My husband started his own freelance business now as well. So we both have our own things going, and we collaborate with some other online colleagues and network that we have, established just through this whole really cool experience, and do freelance work for them as needed to, a contract basis and stuff like that. So that's kind of the story in a nutshell.
Oh my gosh, I love it. There is so much that I want to unpack in there. I mean, this is probably we could do like 5 or 6 different episodes on all the different themes.
Be long-winded too. So
I was sitting here taking notes about, oh, that's a great, I want to do that, but we can circle back to some of those. Mm-hmm. I would like to rewind a little bit further into your personal life, and so you got into upper level education, and it sounds like you have some abilities that others don't in terms of digesting information, being able to learn and teach. Have you always had that? Like, were you a driven student? Did that come from your family upbringing? Did you have parents that were very,
That's a
I
really good
guess, I don't want to say strict, but it was very
question.
important.
Academically
Education was important and things like that. I mean, I came from my mom was a teacher, and when I was a young child, school was it. It was like, you will not miss school. Um, you will perform as you dress. And so I always had the collared shirt, and, straight A's were really the only alternative, right? I mean, a B could slip in now and again, but you can make sure that there were going to be extra studies and things like that. So anyway, I'm just curious kind of how you came, if that was some kind of just a natural personality trait
Yeah.
or
Sure. I think it's was a little bit of a combination of both, to be honest with you. The education was definitely very important to my parents. They just they valued it as a way to give me, and I have one younger brother. They valued it as a way to give us options. They wanted us always to have options in life, and so they really did encourage us to do well. Now, that being said, I think I did have just kind of a natural bent in that direction. I think there's something to be said too for being a firstborn female child. You kind of, yeah. And so we just move forward and kind of want to do well and just want to achieve. And academics was an easy setting for me. Like, I would say I never felt like I worked really hard in school, but I was able to get to do well. I did quite well. I took the advanced placement courses, got honors credits. I think I was third in my class when I graduated high school. So, there's quite a bit going on there. Now, that being said, when I got to college, I did have some skills that surprised me because, there was some things that I think I just picked up by accident. So again, blessings from God, things I got in early doing a research. I got some really good research experience in my undergraduate, simply because I went in my very first meeting with my college advisor before I started. I went in, I had a list of classes I wanted to take. I was a psychology major, obviously, but I was thinking, I think computer science would be a really great minor, because computers are becoming a thing now. And I just had this plan. And when I sat down with this advisor, he was phoning it in. And he was just like, whoa, computer science minor, that's a really good idea. I think I'm going to start suggesting that to some of my other advisees. And I'm like, maybe we should switch seats here. And so I just lost all confidence in his guidance. And I decided I was going to seek out my own mentor. And I think that now that I'm saying that, I'm like, I think that's been a really important thing for me. That's really changed my path in a positive way on many occasions over the past many years, because it was my psychology statistics class. I just happened to like my professor. I thought he had a very common sense way of teaching the material, and I liked his demeanor. So I just made an appointment with him. He had no idea why. And he was kind of surprised when I showed up, and I was like, hey, I didn't really connect with my advisor. I was wondering if I could just talk through my classes and my course plan with you because I like you better. And he was like, yeah, sure. And the very next day he emailed me and was like, I'm looking for a undergrad research assistant, and I was wondering if you would be interested. And so just the fact that I took that initiative just to go talk to him about my classes was enough. He saw, I guess, a spark in me that ended up turning into an honors thesis and 3.5 years of really good hands-on research experience, several published papers, research papers in well-known publications, and things that really, really set me apart when it was time to apply for graduate school. That other psychology major, because psychology is we always joke it's the biggest major at the college except for undecided, right? So there's a little bit of competition, and then of course it is also sometimes true that a psychology degree and what now it's probably $3 will get you a cup of coffee if you don't want cream and sugar in it. So I knew I wanted to go further, but at the same time back then I didn't really feel like I had any personal direction. And that was something that I uncovered through that journey. I spent a lot of money on, on college just to figure out that I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And from all of the external markers, I was checking all the boxes. Like I was really impressive. But I remember my last semester at my undergrad, like preparing for my thesis defense as an undergraduate, crying because I'm like, I don't know anything like about this research topic. I look at all of these research papers that I've skimmed or just read the abstracts, but I never actually read them in detail. Like I could have applied myself so much more the last, 4 years, and just being really hard on myself. Now, flash forward 2.5 years later, when I graduated with my master's, I would say my master's defense was easier for me than my undergrad defense. Like it was about the same. And I didn't realize it at the time that just because of the people around me lifting me up, and I guess my own expectations of myself, perfectionist, which is something I've been working on. I, was doing work that was just good quality just because I wanted to, but I was just hard on myself about it too. And so those experiences really prepared me, because then I felt the same way going into my graduate degree, deal with imposter syndrome. I'm like, do I really deserve to be here? Like, do I really understand the research the way that everybody else does? Like, am I, or am I just walking this path because this is the one I set forward on? And then one night when I was grading like 100, because I was a teaching assistant in graduate school too, and I was grading like 100 intro to psychology papers and going out of my mind, I'm like, I have got to find some people that are not in the psychology program where everybody knows everybody's business. And that's when I created an online dating profile and ended up with my husband husband to be shortly after that. But yeah, and then that just really sent me in a tailspin, because once we got married and decided I was going to drop out of graduate school, that changed everything. Like that was, again, many nights crying, sobbing, but it came to the point I realized it wasn't me that it was like, oh, I want to be a clinical psychology research professor someday. My life stream. It was just like, that's just what I'd always thought I would do.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a vision for anything else. And I was more concerned about what other people would think, like, oh, she's dropping out of graduate school to get married. That sounds great. That's like was in a sharp contrast to, the driven, academically performing, person I had always told myself that I was. And so I think that, that's one thing we're doing different with our kids, really being homeschooling them and everything, is we've already told them we're not pushing them to go to college. I think it's even so much, the landscape of education is so much different now even than it was when we were making those decisions. And so we've told them, like, if you want to do like nursing, well, yeah, you got to go to college for certain things, right? But there's so many other ways to get education. There's so many other paths. And I've done so many things now since then that I never would have done if I would have just been blocked in. And so I am thankful for my parents, although I think it's taken them maybe a long time to see it, because, they wanted me to go to college to have options. And I had to go to college so that I could leave college and find my options, because it wasn't college that gave me the options, but it was, the skills and the decision making and just learning about myself and the maturing in that way that made me realize that I have all the options in the world now with entrepreneurship and what I want to do. I just have to figure it out and decide, and I can change it tomorrow if I want to.
Yeah. Important points. Your flexibility to change directions is something I did want to talk about. And I'm glad you kind of went down there, because I was curious about those moments where you decided to get married, and in order to not necessarily in order to do that, but to allow a certain relationship that you had envisioned, you shifted gears. Same thing with, when you got pregnant, another shift and stuff. And so, yeah, it does sound like there was at least some struggle internally, not necessarily to take the decision, but just to, maybe question about a path you were on. So yeah, that's something I was curious about because, on the one hand, the flexibility and the willingness to change and to say yes to new things, or to even be not necessarily confident, but to be willing to step down a different path. There's beauty in that, especially in today's world, in being able to pursue different things, try other things, and not get just too tunnel vision.
Right.
But obviously, on the other hand, there is some benefit in being driven and being, taken down one path. No right or wrong answer, obviously, but I think a lot of people can get trapped into, I have this vision, I have to achieve it, and not miss some of life's opportunities that open up along the way. And so it sounds like you've kind of had many of those along your path, which applaud you for kind of doing that. And it sounds like there was some level of conscious effort, but also, to your point, a lack of an obsessive vision, right? You were kind of uncertain, and so it was like, okay, well, I can take this because I don't really have something that's I'm dead set on being in there.
Now, I'd like to add that Mike mentioned that it's beauty to find your own path and to take this leap of faith. But I also think it's bravery and it's courage, which I want to applaud you for, because living in a world where we're so fear of what other people think of us, it takes bravery and it takes courage to take that first leap of faith,
especially our parents,
and to chart our own territory. So
and I'd say that it's been such a refining process. I think parenting is such like a character refining process, because if there's anything I've learned about having 6 kids and being married and being an entrepreneur, it's that almost every time that there's a problem, it comes more down to me dealing with something inside of me than it being something external to me, or fixing somebody else, or, is something usually that I have to learn to deal with, or to adapt to, or to adjust my expectations. So that's hard. It's humbling.
Yes, but it's so true, and I think it takes us a long time to realize that.
Yes.
To be mindful of the fact that actually it's a reflection on me, and I have to change.
Yes.
Not the people around us.
Yeah.
Related to parenting, you brought up an interesting concept earlier about, and Lidge and I actually were just talking about that this morning, but forming an identity throughout our lives. And I do think a lot of us can get an unhealthy attachment to this identity as a parent, and lose a bit of ourselves, honestly. Like you said, you have your Nicole brain, but you're also a mom, but you also like to learn and you like to run your business. And I do think it's systemic in the US, at least. Lydia has family overseas, and we see similarities to it. But yeah, I mean, when you get in this window of 25 to 35 or 40, where you have children in the household, it becomes about getting them to school, making sure they're performing, getting them to extracurricular activities. And there is a sacrifice to be made, and it's a beautiful one to take responsibility for bringing people into the world and making sure they have the foundation to function once they become adults. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it becomes very easy to get overwhelmed and consumed by that, and not foster the intimate relationship that you have with your spouse, or your own personal development. And yeah, I think once children leave the house, or even before, there does become this void of, okay, well, that's my identity. What do I do now? And some people continue it into adulthood, right? There's a codependency or other things that happen. And that's also, I think, a really important and overlooked aspect of just our lives, that it's all too easy to go down that path.
Yeah. I was going to say, I found, I kind of joke with people because they ask, well, how do you do it all? I say, I don't clean my bathrooms, or, but I really do say, once you get like 3 to 4 kids in the house, the temptation before that is do things for them, because when
Uh-huh.
kids are little, like, it's so much harder in the short term to teach them how to do something versus just doing it for them.
Hmm.
And our lives are so busy and fast paced nowadays. That just seems simpler. But then that continues and continues. And long term, it's not a very good solution, because then you
Yeah.
end up doing and doing for them and they never learn for themselves. But when you get, I say, you get like that, a certain number of kids accumulated, then it's literally impossible to do for all of them. And it really forced me to get away from the perfectionism of having things a certain way, and to start revisiting, what are my standards for
Yeah.
cleanliness in my home. Now that we're homeschooling, it's been the biggest struggle has been, again, an internal one, because I want my kids to learn how to learn. That's what I say. That's like the reason one of the reasons we say we want to homeschool. But then if I'm pushing them to only get straight A's, and if it's becoming a negative thing, and I'm just like, I homeschool, I don't even have to give them grades. Like, what is this
Yes.
straight A's thing? I don't have to teach them the way that that I was taught growing up.
Right.
Um, and, but I struggle so much with the guilt that is totally self-imposed on, what are other people going to think? Like, look at that family over there whose kids are excelling in a homeschool environment. And then I've got this hot mess kid over here who can't even like keep their homework straight. And I'm, their teachers there, because sometimes we do a co-op, and I'm like, their co-op teacher's telling me yet again that they forgot XYZ. And I swear we did this last week, but now again, and I feel like I'm in the principal's office, but even in that, like, these are, it's a co-op, it's other moms, they get
Right.
it. And it's totally self-imposed, but that's again, just another example of how we do these things to ourselves. And it's really an internal struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I remember from our last podcast episode, but you touched on something that we leverage in entrepreneurship. So when we started, solopreneurs, do it all, bootstrap, get things going, and our tendency was to hold on to that control. And so we had to consciously push ourselves to get our business to a certain point where we couldn't do it. Like,
Right.
you have to grow so much, to your point. Once you get a certain number of kids, I can't do it all.
Yep.
We had to do the same thing with our business. It's like, okay, we have to put a system in place. We have to leverage other people. We have to do these things. Otherwise, everything's going to collapse and or we won't scale. And so I think I remember from our last conversation, you said, you have everybody at home, right? You and your husband work from home, entrepreneurs, you have your kids homeschooling. And so it sounds like you guys consciously put together some systems, right?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned you timeshare your office, right? One of you's in the morning, one of you's in the afternoon, and you do these different things. So I think that's a super important aspect of things, in addition to what are the standards that are important to you? What are you going to focus on? Because you can't do it all. I've taken some coaching certifications to do coaching with other people, and one of the important things is, like, there can be so many things that you focus on in life. It's kind of, you got to pick three. What are your big three with your kids? Okay, wear your hair however you want to wear your hair, as long as you're getting your schoolwork done, or these kind of things. You can't. My mom always says, pick your battles, kind of a thing. And it is true in a sense. You really have to. I mean, you can't fatigue your children and yourself with everything. Like, pick this up, go do that, put this away, get on there. It's just maddening at some point. So you got to systematize and set the appropriate standards.
Yeah. We read this book we really love, because our oldest is 14 and a half now. So it's been a bit of a struggle we've never parented teenagers before. All the other things we've done in our life, this is new. and unfortunately for him, every stage he gets to, it's going to be new for us.
Yeah.
But there's a great book we found called, I always get the title wrong, but it's such a clever title. It's feeding the mouth that bites you. Feeding the mouth that bites you.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's so great. It's so great. So we've been doing that, but even still with doing that, we're like, I seek out mentors. I have to. And so we're still struggling We have a parenting coach right now that was helping us navigate our relationship with our oldest. Last year, we were realizing that like being home full time, my husband and I, that the quality of our marriage wasn't what it used to be. So we got a marriage coach and we worked with a marriage coach for a while. And now things are better than ever. And of course, business coaching, like I couldn't tell you how many different business coaches we've had at varying levels. But it's always been something that it's good to have somebody along to give you a new perspective. Doesn't mean you always agree with everything or that, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and you take the things that you can use and leave out the rest and see what works for our family. So, but yeah. And we systematize with like, it's always a challenge. I think my husband and I are both firstborn perfectionists, we say. So
wow.
Like, we joke that our marriage works at all because if you read like birth order stuff, it probably shouldn't. But he's also a systems expert, which has really helped me because I suffer more from what I call spaghetti brain, where it's hard for me to kind of isolate the things that are the most important sometimes. And I'm not a disorganized person by any means, but he has the deep-seated skill set to just kind of cut to the heart of the matter and be like, this is the string you pull to make the knot come untied, and then we can handle things.
Who are some of your mentors and whether it's a personal mentor or just, some content you digest or somebody like that in parenting and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I'd say our biggest business mentor has been Shane and Jocelyn Sams from Flip Lifestyle. I had listened to their podcast many, many, many years, and then finally jumped in and joined their membership when we started to go full time. And he just like within a month of joining his membership, he was doing a small group coaching, and it was a higher ticket coaching program. But as soon as I saw that, I was like, I feel like we should we were living on savings at the time, but I'm like, I feel like we should take some savings and probably do this because can I do it on my own? Yes, I am one thing, if not, I'm confident about things.
Yeah.
I'm never confident on the timeline, but I'm always confident that if I keep wanting to do something, eventually I will get it figured out. However, when you have, a ticking time bomb of your bank account, you kind of want a timeline. And so I talked to Daniel and we were like, no, we think that this is probably the fastest way is to invest the money up front, get some coaching. And it did. It helped us grow from 0 to 100 members in our membership during the 6 months that we were in doing the business coaching with him. And even more important than that, it introduced us to just a network of other online entrepreneurs. And it gave us our community that we would never have had otherwise. And it opened up other opportunities. Like he ended up working with a seminar company for a while. And so we were able to go on the road with him and go to all these seminars and get a lot of training, get paid basically to get training on face-to-face sales, high ticket sales techniques and things like that. And get to meet some of these people we knew online in person. And so it's been fabulous. And we don't go on the road anymore, but we still, work with him and do some kind of contract business coaching for his business. And we consider them friends now, in addition to like the wider network of friends that we have found. And those are the people now that I lean on when I'm like, ugh, my Black Friday sale is not going how I hoped. Like, what did you do this year? How's it going for you? Is it just me or is it the economy? Like, what is it that's happening right now? And those are the people that we can go and talk to about. I had another friend who was like, oh, I went to this convention. If you can go to it next year, it was life-changing. And this is what I'm doing. And it's just fun sometimes to get there and just start spinning your entrepreneurial business wheels and trying ideas and learning new things. So
you said this was Flip Lifestyle?
Yeah, it's Flipped Lifestyle.
Flipped.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lifestyle.com. Yeah.
Okay. Good stuff. Are you familiar with, I like a podcast called Finding Mastery with Dr. Michael Gervais. He's a clinical psychologist. He works in the sports field a lot, but he has a lot of great guests. You mentioned earlier, fear of other people's opinion. He just came out with a book called The First Rule of Mastery: Stop Worrying About What Other People Think of You.
I love it. Yeah, I'll have to read that for sure. I'd say that the life-changing book for me was Boundaries by Doctors Cloud and Dr. Townsend. McLeod
Yeah,
and Townsend. That
I've heard of it.
oh,
We
yeah,
have it.
Yeah, you read that?
Mhm.
I think.
yeah, I read it very early in our marriage, and I still will buy it for people and give it to them. It is the number one thing that I go back to in my life over and over and over again. So
Mm.
Important.
I really, really like what you said about realizing that you can do it on your own. You have the capacity; it's not a problem. But being part of a community of like-minded people helps us grow. You know, and we're because many times we need those soft skills. We need to be surrounded by people that go through the same struggles, through the same things that we go through, and be encouraged and be lifted up, and we can give and receive, and it's part of growth. I really, really like that.
Yeah, we did the same thing as you. When we went into the world of entrepreneurship, our income stopped. We were both not working, and we also lived off savings. And so, yeah, very much we invested in coaching. And I tell people the same thing. I'm like, I don't recommend it as the preferred path. But it worked for me. And my personality is such that I really kind of need to be all into something and have that motivation to get it done. Otherwise, yeah, I can do it. I have no problem. I have no problem with the lack of confidence or anything. It's just, to your point, the timeline. I'm going to go faster. I'm going to go further. I'm going to learn things more quickly. I mean, why not leverage the experience of others along your way to not make the same mistakes that they made?
Right.
That's the power of books and communities and all that stuff. It's great when people will compile decades of experience and you can digest it very quickly and hopefully apply it.
Yeah. And I think we even this past summer, we had to pivot our business a little bit because one of our one of the kind of jobs we were doing as a contract that was a pretty decent part of our income just kind of suddenly stopped unexpectedly. And so that's always a little bit scary in the entrepreneur world too. But it's really no different than getting unexpectedly laid off from your job, except we had multiple streams of income going. So it wasn't our entire income, which was nice. But that's immediately what we did is we're like, okay, let's jump into this other coaching that we had been thinking about, but we didn't think we could afford it yet. Well, guess what? We could afford it even less. But at the same time, we're like, I feel like we can't afford not to do this right now since we need to make some significant changes and we felt kind of stuck. So we actually invested in probably the most expensive like month-to-month coaching we had done in the past. And it was an interesting experience because we did it for, several months and then kind of realized that coach was not a great fit for us. Like he was really pushing us to form our business a certain way that we didn't feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think I'm kind of tired of paying this guy this amount of money for, advice that he's not looking at what we, because it's not always with entrepreneurship. It's not always just about like how much money you can make. It's like, what do you want to build? What do you want your life to look like and your business to look like? And so we had to think about that. And that was really a scary decision because then one benefit of having a business coach is you're always like, he told me to do it. Right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And so now we had to be like, okay, he's telling us to do this, but our gut says no. And so then we were like, no, we're not. And was it a worthwhile experience? Yes, it was. Like, I'm glad we did it. I learned a lot of new skills that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. Probably the most profitable one being I learned how to run profitable TikTok ads for the first time ever. And so, that'll pay off, the coaching that we did by itself, in addition to the other soft skills that I learned. But coming out of that, there was another coach, Kim Anderson. She does Kim Anderson Consulting. She's somebody I've worked with several years ago, and she does these mastermind coaching, and she was way less expensive. And she had stopped doing it for a few years, and she just was like, I'm doing it again. And so I'm doing it for my old clients, you can start this first round for like $100 a month, which I'll tell you is peanuts compared to what I was paying for the guy over the summer. But the difference with her is that she's a mom. She is I know she's in alignment with what my goals are. She's never going to sit there in a mastermind meeting and be like, oh, Nicole, you should do XYZ that I know you don't want to do because it's going to make you more money. She's going to be like, well, do you want to? Like, no? Okay, let's figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then we'll figure out how we can adapt that to make you money. And so, yeah, so I was just going to say, like, it's not always the most expensive business coach. I think that is, everybody always says, oh, pay, if somebody listening to this is a coach, like they always say, oh, charge what you deserve. Yeah, that's true. And like everybody deserves to do it. But also, you can get a lot of benefit from a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And so guess what? I'm going to be signing up for her next round too, because it's exactly what I need when I need it.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, we've done the same. We've invested in a lot of coaching and we continue to. We offer coaching in various ways. And it is a very personal, or it can be in many avenues, a very personal relationship. It's the same with tutoring, right? I mean, a student and teacher, different learning styles, different purposes or goals, as you mentioned. And yeah, we've had coaching where we have not renewed, or we've rethought that. We've always learned, and we've always extracted more than the value that we put into it, be it a high ticket coach or someone that's not. But yeah, it is a very personal thing, and it's unfortunate that there is a lot of trial and error, I think, that you have to do just to understand. I mean, it's hard to really get to know someone and their style without being in that moment. And so, I mean, you can do referrals and you can do trial periods, maybe even, but until you're really in it and kind of go down the path a little bit, it's hard to really know. But yeah, you should always be willing to take away the lessons that you can take away, find the value, find the good. And then if you want to change. But it's important to get those coaches and mentors, and especially if you want to accelerate. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going it on your own. And we actually had a coach in the recent past. He was mocking the label of self-help, because he was like, there is no such thing as self-help, right? It's all in some way you're learning from someone and applying those messages, takeaways.
Even the self-help books, yeah,
right. I mean, somebody's done the work and you're doing it. But.
Yeah. Recently, I came across a quote from Tony Robbins where he says, "Success without fulfillment is failure," and that resonates very much what you said. When it's like, I don't want to do these things. So making money without being fulfilled and without doing the things that you want to do and that you're passionate about doing, it's going to feel like failure. Yeah. Because yes, we live in a world where we all want to make money because we need the money to live. Yeah. But in the same time, to seek that,
success for people is defined in very unique ways, right? Success for someone can be millions of dollars in the bank account and revenue and cash stream. Success for someone else can be transforming someone's life, or raising a child, or having a job that pays the bills and I'm able to spend time with my child. Right? It's just and that's the important work that needs to be done by each of us, right? To go in and find out what are my values, but then what are the definitions of my values? Because they can be very, very different from. We've done the same thing when we look for coaching programs. There's people that are flashy and they are preaching, you can make millions of dollars, drive this car, have this watch, do all this stuff. And that's just not our style. I mean, we have different values in life. And so we look for different coaches and different outcomes. But great.
But it seems like your bravery and your courage, kind of leads you throughout your life, because to listen to that gut feeling, again, I'm repeating myself, it takes courage. We have the gut feeling. We have gut feelings throughout the life, but we're afraid to listen sometimes. And so many times after we take a decision and we see the results, it's easy to look back and say, that was an amazing decision. But when we have that gut feeling, we're not going to know the outcome yet. No. We don't know it. We just follow it.
I agree with you 100%, Lygia, because it's like, that's what it is. I always say, I love reading too. I'm an avid reader. And I always say that when you're reading a book, you're like, oh, I want to be, I love fantasy too. Fantasy romance. Don't tell anybody, right? No.
Dirty little secret. It's okay.
But it's like when you're like, oh, I wish that I was in this world. I wish that
Mm.
I was the main character. I wish that I could have these adventures. But then you stop and you think about it, and there's no plumbing. Like the reason I want to be in here is because I know how it ends.
Yeah.
She's gonna get her happily ever after,
Right.
Yeah.
right? But in the middle, she's got to go through the torture and the
Yeah,
whatever.
the hero's journey of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, if I knew that the outcome of this particular decision was going to get me my happily ever after, and how do we even define that, right? Because again,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's not defined, but then it would make now easier. I found that one of the things that I've learned about myself, probably just this year, is that my gut feeling, I know what decision I'm going to make, but I have to kind of pep talk myself into it. So I'm not sure if I'm quite as brave as you make me sound, but it's like even for example, we had something happen with our co-op last year where I was like, oh, I don't know if we should stay with this co-op or not. And it wasn't, it wasn't a clear-cut decision. It was going to be a personal decision, but I just had this gut feeling like, oh, I feel like we should leave. But we're like, if we leave out of this co-op, what are we going to do with our kids? We still got to teach them. And now we got to figure something else out. And I have no idea what that's going to be.
No.
And it was that, making the decision to, are we going to leave the co-op and just figure it out? Or are we going to try to come up with our plan first? And it was just blocked every way. We're like, we're going to have to make this decision before we can develop a plan. And that was tough. And I took probably a good month to make the decision of whether we're going to quit or not. But I kind of knew the first day that we were probably going to quit. and it was just a matter of me coming to terms with that decision and making sure that I am okay with that and can live with it. Yeah. So I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with that, though. I mean, a month, okay, that in some instances may feel like a long time, not a long time, but
like forever.
There is some benefit in risk mitigation, or just making sure you're not making a hasty decision, or
nice
things like that. So
it.
I can appreciate that, because I can also get paralysis by analysis, as I'll call it a lot of times when we're doing things.
Yeah, my husband would have called it the second day. He would have been like, "Oh yeah, we're out."
Right.
Like, whoa, wait, that's not a decision we can
we got to roll this over a little bit, and
yeah.
So. Earlier, you touched on something that I did want to explore a little bit, and I don't know if you would define it as this, but adversities in your life, if you've faced, or which adversities, and kind of how you get through that. I think earlier you mentioned a particular project or contract you had that went away. And so I don't know if you'd define that as an adversity, or maybe you have other examples where, in your maybe particularly in your journey of entrepreneurship, certain challenges or hardships, and how you go about pulling yourself through those, or if there are certain techniques or.
I think we've been very lucky. I think in entrepreneurship and a lot of the business world, it's easy to, maybe it's just the American culture, I think it's very easy to scoot the idea of luck to the side and be like, oh, it's all hard work, right? But there is definitely an element of luck in it. And I wouldn't say I've had any huge adversities, which that by itself is luck. Like, we haven't had any like major chronic health problems in my family. Like, one of my kids broke his toe last week. Like, that's annoying, but it's not like a major adversity. And we're in a position where we can get him x-rayed and we can talk to the doctor, and, we can give him any help he needs, which luckily it's not much for a toe. But, our heater went out this weekend. So I think for us, it's more it's so easy to let the everyday things crowd out your dreams and crowd out the goals that you have for yourself, and to give you easy excuses for why you can't take the next little step in the direction you want to go, the next little step, because I don't have time because of this, that, and the other thing, right? The kids are sick, which happens a lot in my family, right?
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, the 3-year-old has been was crawling on me all weekend, and I couldn't get a whole lot done on my computer. So there's I would say those are the biggest things. And what has helped me the most is simply remembering, and I don't even know who said this or where I learned this, but it's something that has stayed with me, is that we tend to underestimate what we can get done in a year and overestimate what we can get done in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so guilty of that.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah, making my to-do list for the day of like 20 things. And I'm like, seriously, I'm only going to get 2 of these done.
Yeah.
Maybe 1.5. But then the guilt sinks in, and I feel like I'm lacking as a mother, as a wife, as a person in general, that I'm not doing enough. When it's really more, it really is. I think the older I get, the more I learn. It's really more about the routines that you put in place and the habits and the willingness to move forward imperfectly. Like, I'm not surprisingly, now that I'm doing this full time, I can't make Your Nursing Tutor it's not just my adult brain anything anymore. I have to be learning something new as well. Now it's my job, which is also fun because I get to do new things with it all the time. But now I'm like, I want to write my own fantasy romance novel. So now I'm learning about how to write and how to write fiction, and I'm writing a novel. And one of the things they tell you, write every day. I don't always have time to write every day. So when I look up and I'm like, it's been 2 weeks since I've worked on this. It's easy to be like, oh, well, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Or, to look at it and be like, well, I'll just wait until I have a dedicated week where I can really hit it hard. No, I just be like, okay, well, I got 15 minutes. Let me do a 15-minute writing sprint before I go to bed and pop out at 100 or 200 words. And that just gets me back in the groove. And I think that's something for me that has really come with age, and experience, because, 20 years ago, that wasn't me at all. I was very much all or nothing. That's been a gradual thing. But now I even have just my experience of looking at Your Nursing Tutor. I grew Your Nursing Tutor over 10 years. Sometimes I would take off 6 or 8 months from really doing anything besides basic customer service because I had a breastfeeder, right? Or I was nauseous from pregnancy. And then right before the baby's born, because I think that's the easiest time, because then your other kids are as self-sufficient as they're going to get. And the newborn's not there yet. And before my second was born, I remember I was staying up until 1 or 2 in the morning. And that's when I recorded my very first on-demand course. And so that was, she's 12 and a half years old now. So, and
wow.
Some of those videos, I still have a few of those videos from that original course still floating around in my membership that I've repurposed for other things now. You can't tell I'm pregnant because I recorded the video. But I'm like, it's those little things that I did. I could have just waited until, we wanted to start full time. And then I would have started with nothing. There's no way we would still be full-time entrepreneurs for this long if we had started with nothing. But I had a lot of experience. I had a lot of knowledge on marketing, even if I hadn't implemented all of it. I had a lot of online connections. I'm kind of an obsessive researcher, and I call myself an information collector. So people come to me like, do you know XYZ? I'm like, nope, but I know where you can find out. and I had content created. Like my blog, I've never been good at SEO. I've tried over the years, but I've just never felt like I've really had a good handle on it. And yet, even still, it gets me traffic to my website every day, just because I move forward imperfectly. And so I think having lived that experience now, it's easier for me to believe myself when I tell myself, hey, it's okay that you didn't do it for 2 weeks. Just write the next paragraph of your novel and then go respond and then let's make a TikTok video for Your Nursing Tutor because I got to post something today. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I just get on there and I talk. And it's good.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We had another coach of ours that used to always say, published, not perfect. Just get it up, get it going, as imperfect as it is. I also love your philosophy of just do what you can in the time that you have and keep the long term in mind. And it doesn't. I think today we can become consumed with what we think is overnight success and people that just go with things. But yeah, I mean. 50 or 100 videos don't happen in a day in reality. Maybe for somebody can do it, but
Right.
for the rest of, it's over a year or two. And to your point, the traffic and search engine optimizations and all that, I mean, that happens over time and with foundation building and just getting things going. So that's especially in today's world, I think, where we're all overloaded and consumed with sensory things coming in and different work, that's a great concept just to get done what you can in the time that you have.
I really feel like it's part of embracing our humanity. We don't have to be perfect all the time. We don't have to be in mood all the time. I'm not a biological mom, but I could also only imagine having 6 kids, being a wife, being a homemaker. It's really hard to think, do I have to do this every day? So, we embrace our humanity basically and move forward.
Yeah, I think that summarizes it perfectly. I feel like, a couple weeks ago, I went and saw the Taylor Swift concert in the movie theaters and everything. And I knew some of her music, but I didn't know like all of her albums like that. But I'm like, you know what? That's her Eras tour. I'm like, I am in my era right now. Like I am in my Nicole era. I care less about what other people think than at any other time in my life. Yes. I am more into doing the things that make me feel truly alive. And motivating my family to do the same. And I love this. And I can only see it, hopefully, getting better as I lean into that as I get older. Like, I hope that someday I'm one of those like little 90-year-old women who just don't care and will just tell you in all loving kindness.
Yes.
Because I'm not a rude person, but like, just be like giving that sage advice and be like, oh, honey, let me tell you, like the old lady on the Titanic, right?
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yes.
All the adventures. I want to have those adventures and those stories and being able to reassure other people that you're going to come into your era too. Just keep following that path. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think that's a great place to kind of wrap this session up with leaving it with that thought. I like that. But we are certainly grateful as we sit here recording this in Thanksgiving week, but we're grateful for getting to know you on 2 different podcast episodes now and the wisdom and light that you share. And really do appreciate you coming on again.
No, I love it. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And being Thanksgiving week, do you want to share what few things that you're extremely grateful for?
Yeah, sure. One thing I was thinking about earlier is that, when I was talking a little bit about my parents at the beginning, and we were talking about, did they push me academically? And they did. But, and for a long time in my life, I thought, I struggle with the feelings of disappointment that I was disappointing them, which I wasn't. But, I didn't take the path that they thought I was going to take. That I got the options that they wanted me to have, and then I chose the options they wouldn't have picked for me. But I always thought, like, where did I get this entrepreneurial thing? Like, it's crazy. And it only just hit me. I don't know why, but it only just hit me really this year that my mom, she did an in-home daycare my entire life so that she could be a stay-at-home mom. And I don't know why I never realized that that's entrepreneurship until this year. And I was like, my mom was modeling entrepreneurship for me my entire life so that my parents could live the kind of life and like have the kind of family life that they wanted, that they thought was best for me and my brother. And I am so thankful that my mom and dad did that. My dad worked outside of the home and she was able to be home, but still earn an income that helped us, to have the kind of the life that they wanted us to have. And so I'm very, very thankful for my parents for that. And because I wouldn't be the person I am today without them.
Yeah. Lovely.
It's beautiful.
Well, thanks again. And we wish you and your family a wonderful Thanksgiving and much continued success, and keep adding value out there and living true to your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving to you too.
Thanks so much.
For those of you joining us today, we hope you enjoyed this time in the Champions Corner as much as we did. Got some awesome takeaways, and most importantly, will take action to continue living your best life and maximizing your potential. Mindset is such an important aspect of life, and when coupled with action, delivers undeniably powerful results.
Please subscribe to the podcast to hear from more great guests and get the latest mindset mastery insights and cash flow matchups.
Again, thank you so much for investing your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast.